awesome to see everyone here. Thank you so much for standing in line. Thank you so much for coming to visit with us today. It's humbling. Great to see all your faces. Who's going to play this game in a week? So the launch of Destiny changes everything for us at Bungie, and that's what we're going to talk about today. So let me bring up your panelists to talk about how we are going to support this living social world over the long term. Please welcome to the stage with a huge round of applause, moderator Luke Smith, M.E. Chung, and Luke Timmons.
Waiting in line really sucks. Seriously, thank you so much for doing it. It means so much to us today that you guys came out. There are a million awesome things happening at PAX, and that you chose to wait in line and spend an hour of time with us is awesome, with a game that you've barely had a chance to play. So truly, thank you. All right, with the thanks out of the way, now a little bit of expectation management. To the people on the far sides of the room who are worried that you're going to miss fucking awesome videos, don't worry, you're going to miss a Bungie logo. We're not going to show any video today. We're not making any like grand, huge announcements, and we're not going to like launch t-shirts at you out of cannons. So if anyone would like to use this as an opportunity to bail, like now's a good chance. Like you.
There's other stuff to see at PAX.
Yeah, no? You're okay, you're in it. Woohoo. All right. So today I don't think you guys, we haven't talked in a long time at PAX. No one's been in front of you guys in a long time. I want to introduce the people to my right and to my left. Like on the right side is Luke Timmons. Luke, tell us a little bit tell us your story.
Yeah, so first of all, thanks again for coming to being here. This is awesome. So yeah, the last time I did something at PAX for Bungie, it was Halo 2, and it was like a Halo 2 event, and it was I think there was like 30 people there. It was pretty fun. But so I started off. I started off in 2001. I was hired to Bungie right out of college. I didn't know what Bungie was, who Bungie was. I was not familiar with any of their games. When I showed up, they were like, you know, the guys who brought you, and they started naming games. I was like, nah, I'm not sure. But it was they said first of all, it was my interview, and I got to sit down and actually hold a controller and play this thing that was there was this vehicle that I could hop in and I could shoot guys, and I was on a beach, and I was like, this is amazing. And they were like, but you're not going to be a programmer here, you're not going to be an engineer. We want you to come on as a tester. And everybody was telling me at the time, don't be a tester. You should go work for HP or Microsoft or something else. But that experience of holding that controller, I'll never forget it. That was the Halo 1 like alpha that I got to sort of sit there and play with. And I was like, I want to come here. I want to be here. So I started off as a tester. I was a terrible tester. I almost caused us to fail cert. Like it's a totally serious story that I screwed up a test case and caused us to fail cert. Almost.
Cert, by the way, just because not everyone knows what that is. Cert is the thing that the game has to go through before it gets to come out.
Halo 1 almost didn't ship because of me.
There you go.
So they were
man.
like, you know what? Thanks for being a tester, but maybe you could write some test tools or something like that. So I was writing test tools and working on that. And then in Halo 2, we needed some more programmers to help out with Halo 2. We needed some network programmers. So Chris Butcher was like, can you come on over? They're like, we understand you can write code. And I was like, I can write code. I can try. So I got to come over and help finish Halo 2, working on multiplayer. I got to work on voice, prox voice, some of my favorite features to work on. And then in Halo 3, I was able to work on. It was awesome. I got to work on matchmaking, save films, co-op, a bunch of just such really fun stuff. And then after that, it sort of turned into for Reach. They were like, well, what do you want to start? Sort of managing guys in a team. So I started working with a UI team and had more groups of guys. And at Bungie, we sort of call it, there's the people who write code, and there's the people we call them coffee drinkers, who are basically the higher you go in sort of the hierarchy, you sort of feel more embarrassed at the amount of time you spend doing like email and stuff like that. So, there are guys in this room for Bungie that still write most of the code in the game, and for me, when I look back at the last 4 years of Destiny, I was helping to manage. We had a group, a UI team. Brad Fish was leading that team. we had this whole team called investment, everything about storing your character on a server, everything that's about like achievements, progression, that kind of stuff. So we had a whole investment team with Tristan Root. David Alders took over the networking team. They were basically rewriting our entire networking model for single player, and then we also had an entire matchmaking team with Luis Villegas for that. So really quickly, now I had, what one person was doing on Reach, we basically had 4 client engineers doing on Destiny. That was about the ratio. So all of a sudden, you sort of look back and you're just like, my God, we just have so many more engineers working on it. The problems are so much bigger, so much more complex. And so yeah, I got to write less code, which for me was sort of sad, but I got to sort of watch these awesome guys, these awesome leads, sort of really taking charge on that. So that's my coffee drinker story. So that's why I still feel guilty whenever they're like, come talk, and I'm like, God, there are other people who did so much more that you actually can touch. But yeah.
For the rest of the panel, I just started writing. I'm just going to list all the names of the people who worked on the project alphabetically. Would that be cool? So, Emmy, why don't you introduce yourself to these people?
I actually don't have the same kind of like history that either of the Lukes. I mean, it kind of sucks that both of you guys are Luke, because I'm gonna have to figure out how to look at you guys and figure out.
Internally, we call him Funny Luke.
Yeah,
and Smart Luke.
Funny Luke and
Smart Luke.
Yeah. I came to Bungie I'm not the newcomer here. I probably came in 2011, and basically was part of the amazing public space team. That's what we call it internally. It's what you guys probably know as the overworld. And so everything that is like where you see people, where we actually meet the strangers in the world and we can interact with them, that was our amazing team. I give a shout out to those guys, because seriously, that's like one of the favorite parts of the project. I don't have the same.
So yeah, I mean, like the stories of how everyone got here are very different. I started in 2007. I wrote jokes for the internet. Before that, I told jokes in videos. Yeah, thanks. Rest in peace. And
too soon.
It's been dead long enough. The thing I worked on in Destiny is the raid stuff, which we're not going to talk about today either. Yeah. So what are we going to talk about today? Well, if you paid attention to your...
Hold on. Before we do that, I mean, we should also say, so Ryan Ellis, who is also going to be here.
That's what I was about to do.
We'll go
yeah,
first.
I was like, dovetail into this thing about how if you read your pamphlet, you were expecting to have Ryan Ellis here, and he's not here. So Ryan is super sick. He actually... I was going to make a really bad joke about that virus, because I'm afraid of getting Ebola, but Ryan does not have Ebola. He's just homesick. He has some version of the super flu. And he would have been a great addition. He was the technical art director for the game and is a super fun guy, and is super bummed that he can't come here. So what are you here for? Well, the panel is called, so our game's called Destiny, Now What? Which is a little bit of a reference. The stuff we're going to talk about today, I'd like us to talk about in 3 simple lenses. Where do we come from? How do we get to where we are now? And importantly, and maybe most concerning to you guys in the room, where are we going to go? We're not going to make a bunch of huge promises about where we're going to go. I mean, if anything, as we watched in the beta, we had so much to learn. And a lot of what we're going to learn as a company going forward is going to be because of the time that you guys put into our world and the changes and fixes that we've got to make to keep you playing it. But before I get to that part, Luke started to allude to this earlier, and Bungie's changed a lot just in the 7 years that I've been there. It's changed a bunch in the 4 years that Emmy's been there. And God, Luke, in the 13 years that you've been here, it's changed a bunch. Like, what was it like when you started with, like, how many people were there? What did you do? You said you were a tester. Like, give us an idea of of what that scope was. And pass me the water.
We had something like, I mean, I was one of, I think, 8 testers. So we had 8 people who tested about all of Halo 1. I owned 3 single-player levels, and I owned a chunk of multiplayer, and multiplayer was what I screwed up. It was an Ethernet cable yank case that caused us to fail, and I'll never forget that for cert. But anyway, what was it like? It was a team of some 38, 40 people. I mean, it was a relatively small, and some of the guys who were here or worked on Halo 1 are actually in this room now. Charlie, who's our dev leads over here, who's one of the old school. We talk about the Chicago days, the old Chicago days. It was a small team. Like, you could walk into a room and just be like, hey, look, there's our animators, a couple artists, a couple engineers, a couple testers, and that was it. And we had a really awesome sort of happy niche in Microsoft that we felt we could do our own thing. And then from there it was Halo 2 was something like, I don't know, 70-ish.
Don't look at us like we know.
People,
We're like in college.
70-ish.
I hope this game comes out. I hope it's sweet.
And, Halo 2 was crazy, and then Halo 3 we went up to, it was basically like, above 100, 110, something like that, and then Reach was again still in the hundreds, and then all of a sudden, after Reach, we just started hiring more and more as you sort of saw the ambition, the size of what we needed, where, like I said, we think we have around 20 or 62 client engineers. Those are just engineers who are writing code for the game client. That's not including, we have an entire server team structure, we have ops, and that's the other thing, I was rudely interrupting Luke before, is that we have, as far as disciplines, right, like I hate getting up in front of people and talking about, like, behold, Bungie, like, I'm representing engineering, I'm representing like 100 people, their designers representing like 30 people. Test, in my opinion, one of the hardest disciplines we have up there. We have amazing testers at Bungie. We have 100-some testers, really amazing test team. We also have, let alone, my God, like HR, legal, IT, art, animation, cinematic, all
the free stuff we got with Microsoft.
So it is, it has absolutely been a nonlinear growth, this amazing growth of people, and with that comes huge, you have this amazing, like, holy crap, we can do anything. We have enough resources, manpower to fucking build the Death Star. We can do whatever we want. And at the exact same time, like, there are these moments where, like, you're like, okay, we're gonna build this feature, and you're like, yes, let's go build that feature, and you talk to like 3 teams, and then like 3 weeks later, there's some other team you forgot to talk to, and you're like, oh God, oh Jesus, and you're like, and there's moments where you're like, how do we coordinate email? Is it via, OneNote? Oh God, this is terrible. And before you know it, you're like, yeah, like in Halo 2, when we were like, let's add prox voice. So we thought it would be a cool feature. And I'm like, hey, Chris, do you think we can add prox voice? That sounds cool. Like, let's go build that. And you could just build it, and you get a tester, and let's build it. So yeah.
So you're not, but now everyone's going to leave this and write a story about how you said that it was easy to build prox voice. It's not anymore. That's kind of the point. Like, the thing is, things have changed.
So yeah, so we are absolutely, we're bigger. We're at the same time, you're more powerful because you can do more. But at the same time, you have multi-console. You have all these other things that take power. So yes, it is figuring out how to keep us, like small, nimble, happy culture where you don't have to feel bureaucratic and bound by red tape that you have to talk to 7 people to get something done. Like, that's still the place we want Bungie to be. And yeah, but when you're talking to that many people really quickly and you realize that you fucking failed to loop in the right number of people to make a feature, yeah, really, really quickly, you're like, you just want to be able to, like, get back to the, the old days where you could stand on a table and be like, we're gonna build this. Is everyone cool with that? And people would be like, yes, let's go build that. Let's make that happen. So it takes a lot more work, a lot more coordination, a lot more coffee drinking, like by middle management like myself. So those were the days. No.
I mean, it changed pretty wildly even from when you started. I mean, one of the things that Luke was alluding to, which I'll patch up for everyone, is, you hear like, oh, whatever, 500 people to build a game. It's not exactly accurate, because what I was saying was, all the stuff we used to get with Microsoft for free, we didn't count necessarily their testers in our head count. Like, we hire all of that now. So we've had to grow just to, maintain the types of games that we want to build on our own. So it's not like there's 30, I think, would you say 30 designers? Which is way more than we've ever had. But there's not 100 designers. So we can't just keep making stuff like prox voice. Don't write stories about prox voice.
Well, even just to talk about culture of what happened on the last, even in the last 4 years, it's amazing to see how much of a transition we've gone, even internally, about the kind of game we were making. I mean, we always knew we wanted to make this living universe. We always knew we wanted to make this social world, but none of us kind of knew really what that meant and what that entailed. And like even internally on the design team, it was like a lot of arguments about, everybody has friends. Everybody knows what it means to have friends and what it means to talk to people online and all these things. But there were just amazing even battles about what kind of emotes people would have. And like, I'm not even joking you, that was like probably the great divide in the studio about what kind of emotes we would have.
So one of the interesting jumping off point for emotes, one of the things that we've added to the studio is this thing called Tiger Core, and Tiger was the code name for the game while it was in development. I can hear you laughing already. Tiger Core is an email alias that all kinds of folks sign up to, write to, post their thoughts to. Then we have another forum called Feedback. So Tiger Core is like getting it in email, and Feedback is like getting it at your desk on the web. And what is the it? It's like the internet. Like, Tiger Core has basically become our version of internal Reddit, where you have like people freaking out
Except
angry.
you know the faces of everybody who's
Yeah,
writing to the email.
and that's what I mean. Again, from the thing that made me sad about. I mean, as much as I love the feedback in Tiger Core, is that like I mean, you know, everybody. I mean, we are brutal when it comes to feedback, just in itself, but we try to make it, keep it civil. And then so yeah, I already follow Reddit, follow Gaff for NeoGaff and these other things. And then to see Tiger Core, you'll see a person fucking two stations down from you who's like, this is the stupidest decision we've ever made, and you're like reading this, and you're like
I don't.
come talk to me. Like, God, like, yes, that sucks, but you don't need to be like, behold. I'm like, what is it about, like, the second you start writing it down, you're like the, like, anonymous internet, like, worst of it. And
That guy's really nice at lunch, but then all of a sudden in the email, you're like, whoa, dude, man, people have feelings.
Take it easy, yeah. Like,
but the cool part about this is not oh my gosh, we get bitched at by people that we work with. That's not the point at all. The point is we're trying to build Bungie in a way that creates a culture of players, and that angst, like that anxiety, that frustration is something that we feel while we're playing through the summer, watching our characters get wiped as we get ready for the sort of final characters. And yeah, all of this stuff. Yeah, like I just heard in the front row, like that's pain, man. Like losing that little dude you've been adventuring with, and then they're like, okay, well, this is the third to last character wipe, and you're like, oh gosh, I'm gonna have to go. This thing's gonna have to die like 3 more times.
And it was embarrassing. This was like, who was it? We were like Smith and I were playing one night.
This
and
is like 3 days ago, dude.
3 days ago, and it's like 1 a.m. and I'm like, all right, I just got these new like pants I want to get, but I need a level. I'm like, Smith, come help me grind. And you're like, what the fuck? It's gonna be wiped. There's nothing. And I'm like, no, come on, man. Like come help me.
All right, let's do this for this guy who's getting wiped in 48 hours. Let's get you those pants, Timmons.
Well, because I mean that's the other thing. So I mean, to be other clear, like these guys. I mean, in the last year, I was sort of jealous watching these guys who actually got to play a huge amount more of the final game. Where I mean, on the engineering side, so much of my day-to-day when I fire up the game is we have basically test maps that we use to test out various things, and it's like, I mean, for me, the game is big enough with enough content that like when we finally got the disc, I was super excited to go play stuff that I hadn't gotten a chance to play. And we do tons of internal play tests and that kind of stuff, but I was still like, so to come in and be like, oh my God, I played this encounter last night. It was really exciting. And he's like, what the fuck? I played that like 6 months ago, like whatever. Like
played many
it's
versions
exciting for
of
me.
it.
So
Yeah, I'm guessing like just talking through kind of what the difference between working on Halo versus Destiny, and just talking about. I have to imagine like the scope of this game was so much bigger that you probably are, when you're playing even internally, you're like, I haven't seen this content before. I'm playing this as a player now.
Yeah, I can remember having like we'd finish Halo 3 and I remember playing with Miller and being like, let's go play co-op together so we can play end to end. But the weird thing is that I mean because of God, I don't know how to describe it. I mean. You would play it, and then I'd immediately flip over to PvP, and I'd sort of never really came back that much to single player, right? So you'd sort of consume the entire, like linear, like I'm just going to play through, I'm going to blow through Halo 2, the story, Halo 3, the story, Reach the story, ODST, the story, and then I'm going to pivot over to my happy spot, which is PvP. But this time, I mean, there's so much more that's sort of grabbing at you, asking you to sort of be dipping in all the different activities that for me, I'm just like, oh God, I have not yet played this strike on hard. I have not yet done this on this level. Especially let alone when I have this fucking thing telling me like you can't equip those goddamn pants, and I'm like, I don't want to equip the pants.
Luke, come play. I want to get these pants, man. Like the character's getting wiped in a day.
I don't know. So for me, that is yes, it is absolutely true that I got to play a lot. There's more stuff that I have not played on this game than previous Halo.
Let me say just like how satisfying it is for me to hear like people internally talk about how much they care about their pants.
Here's what's interesting. Like these two are like embarrassing WoW. I was going to say negative to you, like embarrassing WoW players. Like if you ask them how much WoW they played, and what's funny is for me, like when people would talk to me, they'd be like, oh, how hooked are you on WoW? And I'm like, I'll play and then I quit.
No, it's 30. Even worse. You're like, I don't like talking to other people in that game. Like other people in that game scare me.
Yeah, sure.
Like many years ago when we set out and we're talking about this game, like the stranger danger culture was much broader at
Whereas
Bungie
I'm the
than it is
weirdo,
now.
right? Like I'm like internet strangers, yes.
Yes. And certainly in the early parts of the project, in that first year, 4 years ago, there was lots of discussions about people who are the hardcore MMO players, hardcore WoW players, and then I can remember telling you the story about my Stranger Danger, where like I made a new character, I'd never played the fucking game before, I'm playing it in first person because that's all I knew how to do, and like I'm playing WoW, and I'm just like, and this guy comes up and it like starts talking to me, I'm like, get the fuck away from me, man, like I don't want to talk to you. But what's funny is that, but in a first person shooter, like in Halo 2, like I'm the chatty guy who you want to mute, right? So. I don't know.
What if that guy had walked up to you and just started talking to you with Proc's voice?
That's different.
Yeah, don't let this fool you. These guys sound like 12-year-olds online.
What? I sound like a 12-year-old here. Give me a break. It's the same guy.
So I mean, the other thing about early days, was to talk more about it was that, when you were building Halo spaces, and again, we have better people who could talk to us better than I can, so I'm going to give you high-level pictures. I mean, you would start off, and we had, the granularity of work in Halo was oftentimes, here is a single-player level. We're going to have a group of people who are going to build this level, right? Same thing, we'd have a multiplayer level. Later, we'd have a firefight level. And they were all very much these nice granularity. You could talk about the people who were working on it. And that was really, you could build that simple. You could add resources. You could manage the team that way very well. You could talk about this level's working, this level's not. And then, 4 years ago, and then Jones, I'm in this room, and he draws on a whiteboard a space with all these intersecting, and that guy's doing this, and this guy's doing this, and they all meet here. And again, and this is coming from again, the age of Halo tech, and I'm just like, you were fucking crazy. It was, how are we going to build that technically, let alone the you want what? You want this guy who's on a raid group to be intersecting with and see people who are brand new and then going over here. It was a much more it's all together. So you could, a huge challenge of figuring out how to have the teams work on it at the same time and how to understand. You couldn't say, no, this is my space for this, for this thing. Therefore, this pillar has to be here because I need that for my cover. You're like, well, no, because for my public event, I need this. And
what I was going to say was, in a bunch of ways, Emmy, your team has been sort of the great disruptor, for a team of game designers who really, make great Halo missions and make great missions when you come and tell them okay, well, this space is a space that people are going to have to traverse multiple times, see a bunch of different stuff over and over. That's the team that you built. How did you guys talk a little bit about that in that place in the studio?
Ooh, man, this is a hard one. I think it's interesting coming to Bungie knowing the whole mantra was 30 seconds of fun, right? We always talk about just the core tight controls that Bungie's really known for, and for us, it was trying to take some of the things that Jason has talked about in terms of, what does it mean to have an ambient world that you really want to live in that feels different every time that you come in. And it's amazing, really, when you talk about people are the great dynamic things that you're throwing into the mix that makes the space feel different every time. And so a lot of our, philosophy, even just internally for the design team, just having the mantra of, we just have to let people first, not hate each other because it's so easy to go into an online environment where it's easy to grief each other. And then secondly, what is that? Sometimes you'll see someone that may actually spark your interest and there's something about them that you actually want to engage with them. A lot of the design philosophy around that was just constantly pushing this team who just evangelizing that across the team. We brought so many people who worked on open world games, who worked on other social games, and it was so important for us to kind of bleed that touch across the team. I don't know, even talking about that with raids was how important that was in terms of the social impact.
Having the experience. Are you talking specifically about the experience in the Waking Ruins where you'll see raid groups? If you're So Waking Ruins is a bubble on Venus, and when I say bubble, what I really mean is an environment. You'll know it as if you were playing in the beta when the name comes up and says you're in. I don't know any of the bubble names on Cosmodrome. What are the real ones? Yeah, when you're in Moth
Smith,
Yards.
what's a bubble? Can you briefly for them?
Moth Yards is a bubble. Dry Sea is a bubble.
It's a unit of loading and of simulation for us. So if you think about all our spaces, traditionally it's a series of
Tell them
it's a series of bubbles are units of for us of it's a technical thing we developed. It's a unit of loading and of simulation. Bubbles are stitched together, and basically bubbles are what are sort of the connected things. You talk about traversing, you'll have this will be a bubble that is where the raid guys will go this way, and then you'll have a series of bubble that then intersect, and then Emmy's oh, that's me. There's a public bubble there where you can have this sort of that's a bubble. Back to you.
So in the Waking Ruins, while a raid team's attempting to break into the Vault of Glass, you may stumble across, you're cruising around doing some mission, you'll stumble across and see these 6 players building something in the space that you've never seen before, or parts of the space are active that you've never seen before, and there are certainly characters that you probably haven't seen before running around in it, and it's one of those moments where you have an opportunity, if you want to jump in and help out and follow them into the door and see what's inside. But that simple story, like that simple user story, and I think this is what you were getting at,
Yeah.
becomes the process, like becomes this giant drawn out process of trying to figure out like how do we get all these teams together. Like one of the things that we've talked about a bunch with space design is previously what Timmons was alluding to when he was like drawing the missions with his hands and there was like the group of people. What that really is now that group of people is renting space, and the space that they're renting is that environment content is like the space that they're renting in Destiny, because a bunch of the spaces are spaces we want you to come back to. We want you to go back there. We want to create, in addition to building spaces and building new spaces, we want to create new adventures for you in places we've already built.
They're when Jones 4 years ago, and it was Jones and Charlie actually when they were talking about this 5 years ago, and they were like, so there's this idea that we want to basically, without having any opt-in, without anything, just have other people show up in your game. That was just the stated goal. And that was like a 2.5-year technical bet for fucking like 30 engineers. And it was just like, and there are these moments like we're just like, I'm not going to say leap of faith that it would work. Like I think we thought through it socially, but it was still just like really like all this just for the fact that you're running along and you're just going to see this dude who's wearing like godlike level exotic armor walk by you. You didn't actually choose to play with him. He's doing something else. That's worth it. And it took, I'll never forget the first playtest that we actually had the whole system running. And again, Bungie would
for us internally.
I don't want to use mine. I'll just keep yelling. All right, is it? Oh God.
Are we back?
All right. Yes. All right.
That's
All right,
tough.
we're gonna
We
stop
got
until the
through that.
Bungie logo comes back up. Thank you.
What was I saying?
You're talking about emotes.
Oh yeah.
Can you talk a little louder?
Well, no, I was talking about.
That's too loud.
Oh my God, these guys. Why did I agree to do this? Every feature in our, I think, was just like met with a lot of pros and like just a lot of self-criticism, and I think most of us had we were like looking into this darkness and going, oh my gosh, what are we doing? And I think it didn't really click for us internally until when we started building our own characters, and those characters actually became an extension of us. Like that's the first time that I think like stuff clicked for people, because almost all these features that we had never worked on before, like as Bungie, was met with fright, met with.
I think it's a general. I mean, a general philosophy we have is the like, this might be wrong, but and then you like crap an idea out.
Yeah.
And
I mean,
you,
but even more. I mean, we certainly did have those. Well, back on Halo moments. Like, well, back on Halo. Let me tell you the way this worked. And what's on one hand, you want to use that as a lesson, as a learning tool, but not to like cramp you to make decision making, right? Because I mean, like one of the biggest things for us was like we spent a lot of time really early on trying to nail the director. The director was a thing that we, Jason had laid out pretty clearly. Like the idea, this is not just some fucking static menu that should just sit there and pick stuff. Like it's meant to be this alive thing that's supposed to helping to grab you, helping to make decisions, helping to figure out what are you in the mood for? The director should provide something that you can look at that. And it was really easy to be like, well, back on Reach, we that was okay. I mean, like, and so we really had to, when somebody brought that up, we always had to sort of check each other and be like, sure, well, hey, let's take away what's the good out of that, but also like that can't. It'd be very easy to just be like, well, let's just build it that way, because that's the way we knew it worked across 4 games. But so I mean, we try to be always having those sort of more honest conversations when somebody would say that.
I mean, I'm pretty sure half of the features in the game were going to get cut until like we played it, and really like that was like for us when you said the vert slice, when we all played it internally, that was the first time we're like, oh, I understand the game we're making. And even still, we look at some of the stuff that we've done and we're like, we're not the best.
let's play the video that we brought of the vertical slice known as T30. No. I'm just kidding. No, sorry.
Well, Emmy touched on it. We were talking earlier about and whenever new people come to Bungie, especially because we have a lot of people who come from awesome different backgrounds and different parts of different studios, and I'll be like, well, hey, tell me, because I mean, for me, I've only ever worked at Bungie. I hear stories about other companies, and I'll be like, tell me what it was like tell me what Blizzard's like, or tell me what this company's like. And with Emmy, I was like, we were talking about something, and I'm like, and she's like, yeah, there's this phrase that you guys say here that I haven't really heard other places.
We're not the best.
And it's usually said, like, especially when you've gotten a feedback thing, which is that this feature sucks, and you're just like, oh God, we're not the best. So it's usually a sense of like, oh God, yeah, like that could be better. And it's a recognition that we're certainly trying to figure out so many things as we were building them. And yeah, some things work, and some things are like, that just sucks. So.
Yeah, you think that's funny? That's funny to you. I think there are a bunch. It's funny as you guys were talking about we're not the best. I was thinking about a bunch of features that I wish that we had that we don't.
Yeah.
And like there's in a game like Halo where you stamp the disc and you put it out and that's what you got. You're not getting any more features. You're not getting any more stuff. I don't mean stuff even in terms of content. I mean it's like something simple. Like I've had more conversations with you and Jason about wanting to display a helmet in the tower versus my face than I care to admit, because it's an example of one of those things that like we had it for a while and it at some point was not in the right place in the UI, so it went away. It was a permanent decision that was a part of building your character. Like that's where it started in the UI, and we're like, oh well, we can't. I mean, we simply cannot have that be the experience. Like I made this guy, he's awesome, helmet on. And then 45 hours in, you're like, but I want to see
what I look like.
What did my face look like? I want to see my face again. Like I made that choice, so we took it out, which is totally the right decision. But we would like to display stuff, like let you choose if you show your helmet or not, and that's something that we haven't done yet, and it's an example of this thing that it would be nice to have. And yeah, we're not the best. We don't have that yet. Like Oops.
I mean, so I, and God, I apologize because this is gonna be not too long of a story, but you know, I took my kids to Disneyland, and I started reading a lot about Walt Disney, and Disney's talking about the story about why the fuck he built Disneyland to begin with, and he tells a story about how, like, you know, he was really sick and tired of, you know, finishing a product like a movie, and he talks about Snow White, putting it in the can, and then it was done. He couldn't touch it again. He couldn't add to it. And then he's like, my whole point behind Disneyland is I wanted a place that was like a fucking ball of clay that I could be constantly molding over time, adding to. It was not meant to be a static thing. And I read that, and I was like, motherfucker, like, that's exactly how I felt about, you know, Halo 2 or Halo 3 or Reach, was that we built it, but for most of the time, it's like it was done. It was in the can. We would do title updates. We would try to maintain it, but mostly it was like you would never go back and be like, hey, you know, that mission didn't really work that well. Let's try to be like, no, like, it's done. And so for me, so much of this project was like, God, I want this thing that it doesn't just have to be done. It can evolve and change over time, and we can try new things, and those things might suck, and you guys will be here telling us in a year about that thing that sucked that I'm sorry about, but at least we can change it, we can remove it, we can add new stuff. I mean,
we're still not doing questions and answers at the panel a year from now.
So I mean, I mean, whatever. My last Disneyland stories. I mean, you know, a lot of people don't know about Holiday Land. Like, Holiday Land is this thing that they tried 3 years after Disneyland opened. That was terrible, and then they removed it 3 years later, and then they put in Pirates of the Caribbean and other stuff in that area. And like, I feel like that's my goal. I don't just want to work on a game. I've been tired of working on games that were like, we had to get it right, and then you'd be triaging bugs, and you'd be like, oh, I'm sorry we had to cut this thing. God, that sucks. Well, it's never gonna come back. We're not the best. And they actually now, like, the whole point of now is that we can actually say we can change it. We can add stuff over time, and if stuff sucks, we can remove it. I mean, that's to me the whole point of having this living, breathing thing that we're making.
That's the most exciting part. I mean, Timmons and I are moving on to the live team, and a lot of this is just like, how do we actually make this place and make it a place that you guys want to be for a really long time? And it's been an amazing experience, like, working with these guys, because I've never been really a player of my own game, if that makes sense. Like, I'm really excited to play with you guys all on, you know, well, we're
9-9.
Yeah.
9-9 is when they get to play. No, we get to play early, but they get to play on 9-9.
But I mean, like, it's so exciting for us to think, like, what can we actually change moving forward? What do we actually, like, the feedback that we get from you guys, and seeing, you know, how can we keep improving this experience for everyone? I mean, like, Smith and I are huge, like, Dota nerds. Like, we love seeing, like, hey, what's in the 6.81 patch? Oh my God, I can't believe they did. I mean, like, we just love the experience of being in this community where you're, like, you can, even the things that they're changing becomes a conversation piece between you and your friends. Like, that's something we're really excited about doing, and that's something I'm really excited about our game.
My last, sorry, one more. I'm sorry to bombard you guys.
You're doing great.
With Disney stories. Awesome. I apologize. Anyway, so they. This other thing I read that Walt Disney talked about is one fucking small story where, like, basically, so they used to close Disneyland, right? Like, they would shut the whole place down on Mondays and Tuesdays to do maintenance. So the first Monday they shut it down. Like, Disney, like Walt has his, like, professional gardener, and the guy who's like, he's like the dude who, like, you know, does all the, like, the plants and shrubs and shit. So the guy's sitting there and he's like, God damn it, look at this. People are cutting across this fucking area. It's all torn up. They crushed the flowers. Like, this is bullshit. We're gonna have to be, it's like, Walt, we gotta put up fences. We gotta fence this area off. And Walt was like, no, like, we need to build a pathway because the people have told us that's what they want. They want to walk this way, so build a goddamn pathway. And that's the way I feel. It's like, everything that we've done about Destiny right now is what we thought was the right thing. And I'm so excited for you guys to play it, because then, especially for us on the live team, we're going to be like, they want us to change it. And it's tough, right? I mean, it's not, I mean, there's also the flip side, which is, you know, if you guys are, like, screaming of something you want, obviously there's two sides of that. But, like, I don't know. I mean, again, we have the tools, we have the power, we have the capability to change it. And goddamn, I want to learn as you guys are playing to see what we screwed up. I don't know, but and change it. So.
I didn't hear the guy in the back. Was it good?
Oh, beards.
Oh, beards, really? Okay. Man, oh my God, when beards are our biggest problem. Yes, that's gonna be amazing. I can't wait till that's the problem solved.
I want a mustache.
There's no question and answer at this panel. This is not an audience participation panel. Contrary to the whole yelling thing earlier. So, one of the things that we haven't really talked about yet, and I think Timmons started to get into it, and Chung certainly did too, is, You guys just played a bunch of the beta. Some of you, maybe, hopefully all of you. I don't know. I can't imagine not playing the beta and then like not wanting to like you didn't play the beta, but you're gonna stand in line. That doesn't seem like those people exist. It seems weird. So there's a hand. Yep. 2, 3.
Oh God.
I got news for you. That character is real dead. That character is. And maybe they'll get resurrected by you, but he's gonna be naked with no gear. That dude's dead. Or lady. Timmons is wearing them. He's wearing your pants. That question was, what about my pants? The thing that I was trying to segue into was the beta, and we learned a bunch of stuff just from the beta in general. We made a bunch of changes from the beta.
Of changes.
Do you guys want to talk a little bit about some of that, just some of the process of learning? What did you see? Maybe if you have a couple of just dancing around the front of your head, what are some of the changes that are coming as a part of patch 1.0? 1.01? We have patches.
Yeah, that's right. I don't know how much I can talk about, but that stuff will go out soon.
They can know that the auto rifle is not going to be the super powerful god-killing machine that it used to be. Yeah, right? That's how I feel, too. I'm not good enough to use the single-shot weapons anymore. I'm old. And Claude, I'm real sorry for you.
Oh. Easy. Jesus.
He's right here. You sit in the front row and you get it.
Oh, that's terrible.
This lady got yelled at.
I can speak to the server side. So for us, so again, when I talk about the other people who are not here, and one of the teams right now that is doing a ton of stuff is all of our server team, IT, infrastructure, all those guys. They're working on stress tests. They're basically getting ready. And Saturday of the moon of the infamous moon Saturday of the beta. So we actually throughout Bungie we actually had these monitors with showing populations. And it was, we all were sort of like, I think people are going to come back on for the moon. Like we thought, this should be pretty popular. And then there's just this moment where the graph started climbing, like approaching, and I'm like, oh God. And you sort of see, I look over and I see like Roger and Zach, our two server guys, are like wiping their brows, like, oh shit, oh God. And then like the graph started going straight up. And then it was like, I sort of think it's a moment of like NASCAR racing where like, like you sort of can feel like you're like it's like redlining and stuff going on. And it was like, and I mean, to be clear, the whole reason we do alphas and betas is to try to basically break in stuff. I mean, that's the whole reason we're doing this. So all the server guys were like high-fiving each other. There's like shit's coming off the car and like, stuff. And yeah, like a bunch of stuff broke on across many platforms. And again, we're sort of like, look at that. And it was, that was the first inkling of sort of how excited people were to play, sort of a new destination, but also how awesome it was to be able to have a timed event that people would actually sort of move towards. So, yeah, we learned a lot on the matchmaking ecosystem side, server stress side. That to me what the beta was all about. So. And
we also, correct me if I'm wrong, but we did have like a pretty important hotfix that we kicked out, right? Like, that is such a perfunctory term to anyone who's played an online game, and it's not meant to sound like we're doing anything miraculous. But for us, as a company who's previously pressed games on discs and then been like, we're changing playlists, have some new maps. Like for us to be messing with the live game in the way that we're able to is a pretty big deal.
We had, technically for previous Halo games, we had a relatively narrow part of the game that we could basically fix very quickly, and that was, we could tune hoppers, we had a bunch of configuration variables we could tune. But for this game, we sort of knew that we wanted to be able to change, and I'm not going to say change anything because that's a sort of stupid way of saying it because there's a lot of implications of it. But we wanted to be able. We knew that we would screw up so many different things. We weren't exactly sure where they were. They were like, hey, we need to be able to easily balance investment. We need to be able to tune UI. These are the things that we know we need to be able to be good at changing. And that was then what we wanted, when we sort of turned it over to the live team to be like, all right, guys, here's your palette of tools. This is what we can now do. Where previously it was like, oh, that UI doesn't look good on like Halo 3. Well, maybe we'll get them next time in 3 years. So
yeah. There's I can't stress enough about how awesome the server guys are and the matchmaking guys. That's something that's like culturally been part of Bungie's culture, and so and moving on for like what are we doing with the live team? A lot of it is like, how do we actually provide content? How do we provide fixes over the course of the next n number of years. And so we're all talking like full gears are on in terms of like what's going to go out to the community in September, what's going to go out to the community in October. Like we've been talking all about like what can we do that's like actually exciting. The Iron Banner was like the first time that internally we had seen, oh my gosh, like the power of the power of just putting something out there that everyone can actually communicate about. That was really exciting for us.
And it's certainly true that, I mean, I felt, that we did, I felt like we had a pretty good model for supporting the Halo titles, but then all of a sudden when I was like, hey, who can we look towards? Who in the industry is supporting their games really well? And then that's when I started looking at, I think it was the first time that I pulled up this was like 4 years ago that I pulled up I think one of you guys were like, go check out the WoW patch notes. Yeah. And I was like, holy shit.
Yeah.
And same thing for and there's so many games out there that I think exceed, Guild Wars, WoW, they do such a good job of maintaining the game. And I was like, hey, I don't just want to be tuning hoppers, I want to be doing that type of shit. So that was the type of technical decisions we started trying to bias towards over 4 years that we could get ready to start supporting.
Oh, it's the part where I have to keep us moving. I was checking the time because I want to make sure that we don't go over because the last guys went over and it's totally annoying. It wasn't. It was fine. They messed with the fuse box, so they won.
They sabotaged you.
So the last thing I think and it's like a little self-indulgent, so I'm kind of reticent to do it, but
I'm afraid about what you're about to say right now.
Right? The game is roughly a week away. It's about 9 days or something like that. Like, what are the things that you guys are excited to see, do, watch? It's totally different. The climate, and I'll even, so that you have a little more time to think about it, I'll tee it up a little bit better. The climate for how people consume games is so different now than the last time we shipped. Like, when we shipped Reach, Twitch was like something that a grandparent had when they were getting sick, And so... That's not written down. That just happened. I'm sorry. And the climate has changed so much since then. Like, what are you guys excited about seeing these 600 folks do?
I don't know. I think it's kind of amazing to me to see how people are communicating with one another, even without like a lot of robust tools to do it. Like that's something that we really want to improve over time. But like when I see videos on YouTube about Duck Duck Goose happening in the tower and like people getting out of the map, which is like not, I was one of those WoW nerds who like found the airfields outside of Ironforge and like seeing people go out of a map in our world and going, like the artists are like, oh no, but I'm like laughing because I see a bunch of people like pointing at each other like, no, seriously, this way, and you could just see like some of them have become friends, and I'm hearing stories about people just communicating and bonding in that weird way, and so I'm really excited to see like what kind of dynamics are going to happen with people out there, because that's like the crazy thing about our game.
Timmons.
I mean,
no, come on, we only have like 5 minutes.
No,
you gotta fill some of it. Seriously.
It's just I just want people to. God, I hope you guys like it. I feel like we've caked this bake.
Caked this bake. That's awesome. Thank you.
This fucking big cake.
He pulled an Emmy.
It is. It is like I don't know. It's like we have this awesome thing we've worked on for 4 years, and God, I think it's awesome, and you guys have gotten a taste of it. But I'm sure it's like we're sort of hoisting. We're like, open it, please. I hope you like it, and yeah, I don't know, some of the things that I remember when people would tell me the things that mattered to them about Halo and the things that I care about is, like what I care about are those moments where people are like hanging out with their friends, just, kicking it, relaxing and being on patrol. Like it's like the most basic social, casual, just hanging out with your friends experience that I think that I'm really hoping we can do that again. And I think the beta for me when I first started hearing stories about that, and yeah, when I saw the dance tower or the dance tower Twitch video, I was just like at the end of the day, like I think about, whenever I think about myself, I think about myself on my couch as like just the younger, non-old grizzly coffee drinker version of myself, and I'm just like, I just want people to enjoy the game and have fun, and so I hope there's enough stuff in there for everybody. That's the whole one of the when we talk about the original Jones, things that he wanted 4 years ago. One of them was there should be something to do for everybody as far as mood. There should be relaxing things, intense things, hard things. If you want to go, fucking shoot other people in the face, you can go do that. If you want to go, relax and kick it in a low stress thing, you can go do that. And I don't know. I sort of feel like a bunch of us are sort of like lining up at the front gate, but to open the door and watching people stream in. And you guys are going to tell us a lot about what we did well and what we did wrong. And I hope that we can be there along with you to kind of keep making it an awesome experience.
So in closing, I'm gonna. Oh, me? I know these guys don't care what I care about.
Is that true?
Smith, what do you care about?
Well, so earnestly, like the guys that I used to play Warcraft with, like we would always talk about Halo, and we would play a ton of Halo. And it's like, I want to play with those guys. Like, that's the thing. Like, the whole game to me has been building toward getting this band back together and getting this group of guys who I haven't really got to play something like, I mean, you know, to toot the horn of what I got to work on. I haven't played anything in a shooter like the Raid that I got to work on. And, like, a bunch of that is, you know, for this group of people who I used to play with, and to finally sit down with those guys, like, you know, this is as a player, I mean, I ordered my own copy of the game. Like, I ordered the exact copy of the game I would have ordered because I want to have the same consumer experience as everyone else. Like, I am psyched to get in there with like Tom and my buddies, the guys I played Dota with, and go through the game together and like play and hear them and like hear how mad they're going to get and how happy they're going to be, and all of like sort of take the fire hose of feedback from them, just like we're going to take the fire hose of feedback from you guys. So with that, like, I want to reiterate where I started. Like, thank you so much for coming out. Thank you so much for spending an hour of your time with us to listen to us three jabronis, like, talk about basically nothing and show even less and even yell at you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for coming out. And this has been great. We'll see you guys soon.